Hello, thank you for joining me here today. I am going to share with all of you my sensorial album. So this is the primary album that is from my AMI training for 3 to 6 year olds. And one of the most important parts of the album is the order of lessons in the table of contents. So if you're looking to help your children at home, or let's say that you're a Montessori teacher in the classroom and you have a different kind of training and you're interested in learning more about AMI, this album would be very helpful for you. I need to do a little bit of research, but I do believe, if you know, please comment and share the link. I do believe there are AMI albums for primary online that you can access so that you can get copies of the lessons and be able to familiarize yourself, especially with the theory. The theory is so helpful in the classroom, especially when it comes to special needs or any behavior issues that you have with children. So I'm going to open this up and show you the table of contents. It's kind of hard to read, but I'll go over it a little bit. The sensorial album is based on the senses that the children are using within the Montessori classroom. So within the sense of sight, you have the cylinder blocks, the pink tower, the broad stair or the brown stair, the long rods or the red rods, and the color tablets. Within the color tablets, you have the primary box, the secondary box, and then this, I remember this when I was a child in the classroom. It's called, I believe they're tertiary colors. There's box number 3, and the third box is so beautiful. You open it, and it's got these little sections, I believe 9 different colors, 9 or 12. I'd have to look at it again, but it's beautiful. We'll look at it together, and I'll show you some pictures. The next sense you have is the tactile sense, the sense of touch. We have the touch boards, the touch tablets, and the fabrics. And then we have the auditory sense, which includes the sound cylinders and the bells. The bells are amazing. My trainer actually had given so many lessons on the bells, that one of the students had managed to begin composing music at the age of 5. It was so beautiful. The next sense we have is olfactory, and the olfactory is your sense of smell. So we have the smelling jars. The smelling jars are a lot of fun because you take different scents. You get to choose as the teacher what you would like to put in there, but we have some that you can purchase through Neen House, and they're already prepared for you. Sometimes my mom made them with cotton balls and put them in the classroom. When I was teaching, I didn't actually have smelling jars in my classroom, but as a child, my mom had them, and you would basically take the lid off and you would sniff them, and it would be like cinnamon, cloves, and the child would organize them between between sweet smells and not so sweet smells. So you separate them into categories, and it's really a fascinating lesson. And then we have the baric sense, which is the child's sense of weight. So we would take the tablets and place them on the child's hand while the child's wearing a blindfold, and then the child determines which tablet weighs more, and then puts them in order, like this one weighs less, okay, this one weighs more, and separates them out. Then we have the thermic sense, and the thermic bottles and the thermic tablets, and that's based on temperature. Then we have the gustatory sense, and this is one of my favorite lessons. With the gustatory sense, we have the tasting jars. The tasting jars are set up in such a way where you have savory and sweet, and you'll take a tortilla or some form of bread, and you have tiny pieces. So you could cut the tortilla into these tiny little triangles, and then you would take a little bit of what's in the tasting jar. You can use an eyedropper, and you take a tiny little bit of that flavor and you put it on the tortilla, and then the child places it on their tongue and they taste to see what that flavor is and see if they can recognize it. Then we have section 2, which is it's comprised of the complex senses. We have the sense of sight and the stereognostic sense. And with that, so stereognostic is like when you're tracing, when the child's tracing the geometric forms within the geometric cabinet. You have the geometric cabinet and cards. You have the geometric solids, so the child's holding the solids and weighing them out with their hands. You have the botany cabinet and cards, and they'll take out, for example, the botany cabinet has several different leaves within it, and they'll take out one of the, like for instance, I'm trying to remember the curvilinear, there's a curvilinear triangle, but there's a leaf that kind of looks like the curvilinear triangle. They'll take that out and they'll trace it with their fingers, and that tracing is the stereognostic sense. Then you have the constructive triangles, one of my favorites, the binomial and trinomial cube. And I used to wear a blindfold and take the trinomial cube apart when I was between 4 and 5 years old, and then put it back together again. And I have a really great sense of spatial awareness because of my experience within the Montessori classroom. All my girlfriends asked me to parallel park their cars for them. And then you have the knobless cylinders, the graded geometric figures, the decanomial, which is based on the table of Pythagoras, and then there's the stereognostic sense, which includes progressive exercises and a mystery bag. The mystery bag it's comprised of a fabric bag, and you put objects inside of it. Obviously objects that are not going to hurt the child's fingers because they're going to close their eyes. They don't necessarily have to close their eyes because they're putting their hand into the bag. Some of the children like to close their eyes, but they put their hand in the bag, and if they do close their eyes, sometimes it's easier for them to imagine what it is that they're feeling. But they'll look up sometimes and they'll feel the objects, and then they'll tell you what the object is. So in the beginning, you set them out and they look at the objects, you place the objects in the bag, or they don't know what the objects are. They're in the bag already. They put their hand in the bag and then they identify the objects. And this can be as early as 2.5 to 3 years old. You'll do a 3-period lesson, which I'm going to create a video on a 3-period lesson so you guys know how to do that, because it's one of the very important foundations found within the Montessori classroom, and it helps the child go from just rote memorization, which obviously is very challenging for such a young child. It's much easier when they're between 6 and 9 years old to do rote memorization, but it creates a foundation of memorizing significantly large amounts of information through games. Name, clue, and test. They absolutely love it. I had a little guy in my classroom who knew all the capitals and all the states because I had given him a few lessons on it. And once he started reading, he just took off with it. Before he was even 4 years old, he had all of the states memorized and all of the capitals. It was beautiful to watch. They're so young and they're so capable, and we underestimate them all the time. So anyhow, let's look at a couple of my favorite lessons. Let's go to the color tablets, page 19. Please feel free to ask me, ask a Montessorian, ask me if you have any questions about these lessons and what we're doing here. It's fascinating because a lot of people don't realize we have so many senses: olfactory, gustatory, stereognostic, thermic. All right. Oh, we'll look at the trinomial cube. Here is a picture of the trinomial cube, and sometimes, depending on the classroom, you'll find it in different colors. It's based on a squared plus b squared plus c squared. It's an indirect preparation for the child to begin geometry, factoring, algebra. It's amazing. It all in one material. It's fascinating. And we have so this child in this picture right here, if you can see it, it's black and white. This child's working on it's a young boy, and he is working on the first box of color tablets, which is very simple. It has 6 different tablets within it, and the child will mix them up and then match them together. It's a very introductory lesson. Here is an image for box number 2, the second box of color tablets. And this one's pretty rough, but it gives you an idea. It is 9 compartments, and this is box number 3. This is one of my favorite lessons. You've got 7 color grades and 9 compartments for the children to work with. And it's so beautiful when they make this little diagram and they go from darkest to lightest. So they're learning not only different shades of color as an indirect preparation for artwork, but they're also learning vocabulary as far as darkest to lightest. This is darker, this is green, this is light green. Lots of vocabulary takes place in several of the lessons. Here is an example of the geometric solids that you'll see within the classroom. And the vocabulary with this one is cone, sphere, cube, triangular prism, rectangular prism, ellipsoid, ovoid. And now when you see this in the classroom, these objects for the geometric solids, these solids have a little bit of weight to them. They're always blue in color, and they're hard. I'm not sure what they're made out of. Maybe a dense wood. A lot of things in the Montessori classroom you'll find will be made out of wood. And so the child not only holds the solid, but gets a feeling of the weight of the solid. And then they can use their finger to feel the solid. And then the geometric cabinet goes along with the solids. Here's a picture of the botany cabinet. We were talking about the leaves. And that's all the time I have for today. But if you have any more questions about the primary or elementary AMI albums, please feel free to ask me, and I will make a video and I will try and answer your questions personally if I have time. And that's about it. Thank you again for watching. I hope you all have a marvelous day, and that's it.